And welcome back to KTN News Center. Today we dissect the Global Hunger Index 20 report 2022, and we are looking at Kenya and the consequences of the so far failed rains and what could be done to build resilience of food systems. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get straight to you. We've seen the consequences and the situation, the crisis, and where Kenya is as far as the 2022 report is concerned. So what are some of the challenges that counties are going through, especially the ESO counties, to build resilience? Yeah.
I think looking at how our counties are being run,
yeah.
I'm not seeing, any strategic, vision by our governors to really address the issue of food security. Because if you look at the way they are doing things, they invest so much in, the wage bills. If you look at, the wage bills have gone above what has been set aside by SRC, but they will have reversed that instead of putting so much money into wage bills or paying people salaries or employing so many people, they will put in food security. Because I think the first mandate of the government is to feed its own people. If the government cannot provide its own food and feed its own people, then that means there's a problem. Yeah. So I think one thing is lack of strategy to really address the issue of chronic food insecurity in the ASAL counties, because I think we play so much politics, yeah, but not really looking at the future. Because we only look at what we're able to amass at this particular time, but it's not about us coming up with a strategy on how we are going to address the chronic food insecurity in our region. Just look at what's happening in the ASALs. We have this information, or we have this weather forecast from Met Department, from IGAD, from FUSNET, and all this, and we're getting this information all the time. How many people are really the people on the ground? The common man, let's say in Kibich, let's say in Mandera, in Elwak, in Turbi, in Ileret, how many have this information? They do not have this information. So basically, I think one thing that the government failed is to relay really this information directly to the common man down there. If that will have been done, the government will also put in a strategy on how they are going to take, buy this livestock, and so that before they die to the drought, so that they can utilize, while they're in good body condition, take it to KMC and value addition, and able to do this. Look at the number of livestock we ship out of this country. There was a time a ship full of over I think 10,000 sheep and goats went out of this country. Why should we ship that? We have enough capacity to produce it here locally, value add, and then we sell it to outside countries, and it will have more impact. It is going to generate more income for our people. So basically, I think it's a lack of strategy. We're always good at moving from let's say moving development fund to emergency, but not moving emergency fund to development, like enhancing food security, and let's say doing like transformative irrigation in the ASAL counties. And there's a lot of potential in ASAL. People should not think, they should not tell us that there's no potential, and ASAL counties are just there to receive, but not giving or producing their own food. That's not true. So I think it's about lack of attitude. It's a perception that needs to be changed in this country. Yes.
And with the projected failed rainy seasons, maybe you'll be telling us what could be done to make sure that they are not just receivers of aid, they can also produce their own food. But let's stay, Maureen, with the devolved units. Then what is the role of the county governments, and what are some of the opportunities that devolution really presents?
The role of county government, according to the Constitution, is the Constitution has devolved the primary function of agriculture to the counties. And what this means, the production of food, crops and livestock, water and soil conservation, market and trade, and policies that help these different functions work.
Right.
Now, the role that this then infers on counties to their constituents is that they're supposed to be able to provide their constituents with adequate, safe, and sustainable foods. Now, what are the opportunities? And I think part of it I had alluded to when we were talking earlier. Yes. One of the things that counties could do could be looking at competitive advantage of production. There's County X that can produce this easier or cheaply or more affordably than the other county, and work within the regional blocks to do an exchange. but then also try and look at the systemic challenges in terms of how that trade can happen, because I want to believe it's policies, and this is policy that is given, it's the prerogative of the counties, so they can actually do that. Number two, counties have the responsibility of water and soil conservation. This issue of saying we are waiting for the national government to be able to do dams for us should be a supplementary conversation. Counties can prioritize that. Instead of putting money, and just want to allude to what Honorable Wario has said, instead of putting money in developing road that when I leave I will be remembered for, now we need to put money in water. For Asal County, water is life. That's what we say, I believe, in our local expressions. Water is life. So water is essential for any production at that level. Counties can prioritize water conservation, water harvesting where it is relevant. For instance, when it rains, something funny about the Asal, when it pours, we have flash floods. This water is drained down to the Indian Ocean. When it is dry, and we can see it right now, what is happening. Why don't we put in strategies to harvest this water and use it for production? How can counties strengthen markets and trading policies to encourage private investors to be able to do, for instance, because a lot of our food is lost within harvesting. Sometimes it's about transport, sometimes it's about value addition. How can counties work with private sector? Encourage the youth. Our conversation now, we're talking about a government of bottom up, isn't it? Strengthening the local man to be able to participate in building the economy, right? How can we create policies? Counties have the opportunity to create the policies to enable that to work for that sector, and that feeds into food that has added value, can be exported. This also means counties working with national government, because issues of exportation is not at the county level, it has a mandate at the national level. How can they work together such that the meat that Honorable Wario was talking about is linked to the vaccination necessary, which is the role of the county? How do they meet the relevant vaccination such that that meat can be exported? How can we ensure that it meets the international or our neighbor export policies? I think those are some of the things that we could.
All right, and Prof, I know Maureen has really, talked about the role of the counties, but when there is drought, when there is no food, there's food shortage or malnutrition cases, then all the fingers are usually pointed towards the Minister of Agriculture. Maybe you can quickly tell us what ministries, departments, or even stakeholders, should be involved in ensuring that we build resilient food systems in the country. And you can add that with, most of the time, Prof, we realize that food production is overemphasized, and when you talk about food diversity and also nutrition, then that is not so much considered. So what should be the appropriate way so that we ensure that there's a good trade-off, and so we're not ignoring health at the expense of just ensuring that there's enough food?
Thank you so much. I want to say that it's very important to know that, as I said earlier, food security and nutrition is actually a complex aspect or issue. So when it comes to who is going to do what, normally, as we've said, the Ministry of Agriculture unfairly is blamed. But I think what is important is a coordinated effort where we are also going to involve other state departments. One, I want to say that agriculture may be the ministry, but as Maureen and Honorable Wario said, nutrition, health is very important, because you are what you eat. If you eat well, you are healthy. So we find that the Ministry of Health has to come in. We are looking about environment. When you are doing agricultural production, you must look at the environment. What are you using? Are you affecting the environment? So the ministry, the State Department dealing with the environment has to come in. Then trade, because you see, agriculture, apart from just feeding the nation, also is like an economic venture. So we have to bring in ministries, that the State Departments that deal with the trade, with the industry, and also other players. We have the international NGOs like WHH, Concern Worldwide, and then we have also the private sector. We cannot do it alone. And in these food systems, the government must have a coordinating wing which can coordinate all of these ministries and other stakeholders. At one point, I think we used to have agriculture sector coordination unit. I don't know if it's still there. It was agricultural sector coordination unit. We need to have such a unit which was actually bring in all the relevant departments. Almost all of them are involved, even education. We must tell our children, all our people in education about agriculture, because it's a key activity of people in Kenya. So I think that the most important thing is to look at who is going to coordinate. As I said earlier, our global index was launched by the chief cabinet secretary. I don't know if we can do that coordination for all the ministries, because just agriculture alone, because we had food, the security, internal security and administration coming in, because if you are not full, you are not secure. Now, to your second question, Purity, is about production. We are focusing too much on maybe starchy. Like in Kenya, if you have enough maize, we say we have enough food. But we need to look at beyond just the starchy staples in Kenya. We need to look at other areas. We must look at nutrition-sensitive agriculture. What do you say? If I grow something, what is it? Is it just going to fill the stomach? Or is it going to give all the nutrients? And in that sense, we must diversify. We must grow all types of foods. And in this case, I know most of the cases we have ignored indigenous foods, which have been known to be very nutritious, and they can do well. They can also resilient in our circumstances. We have not looked at fruits and vegetables. We only think food is maize and not fruits and vegetables. We need to look also at the production in other areas, like Honorable Ario said. There's a lot of potential in northeastern, in ASOL areas. We've even done some pockets of growing vegetables through irrigation, and you can see oases in those areas. So the potential is there. So it's not just a matter of looking at only one particular aspect. We look at all areas, ASOL areas and high potential areas, and we must diversify and exploit our indigenous foods and ensure that whatever we grow, the nutrition is the key thing, because there's no need to fill the stomach and then you end up being malnourished.
And sir, we've seen from research that the amount of rainfall in the country has been declining and will continue to do so. Maybe what could be done to support the small-scale producers?
It is true that rainfall in this country, especially in the ASALs, has been going down. It's not only ASALs, but I think the Greater Horn of Africa. Rainfall is really going down, and it's going to worsen. That's what you need to understand. Because rain was supposed to come less in period of 1 month, now or probably falling only let's say in 2-3 days, and then causing much damage on livelihoods, destroying infrastructure and all this. So this trend will continue. So basically, I think one thing that needs to be done is to how the governments and of course the communities can really join hands and build resilience of the communities. One is water harvesting. There's a lot of water that goes into west to where it's not needed, because all this water goes to the ocean, and water is not needed there. Water is needed in Garissa, in Mandera, Marsabit, Isiolo, Turkana, and when it rains, just look at Moyale. There is a river, there is a, with the escarpment, the southern highlands of Ethiopia, there's a lot of water which normally, drains to northern Kenya, and no one harvests this water. But, a week or two after rains, communities are always asking for water trucking, which is very expensive and unsustainable. With the strategy of, harnessing this water, constructing big dams, not the small ponds, We've seen, the government planning for 101, small ponds in the north. It's not solving any problem. But why can't we do, a big dam, let's say like Masinga Dam? And then, that water can last even for 50 years. So, and communities can be now trained, can be, the diversification can be done instead of all those pastoralists looking to livestock keeping. People now can look at, agriculture. And there's huge potential. Look at, the whole stretch from Isiolo along the Wasonyura River. Look at, the stretch from Uran all the way to Habaswein Swamp. There's a lot of potential, and a lot of water also goes into west. There's also a lot of potential for underground water. Look at, what we have, the kind of aquifer we are having in Turkana. An aquifer that can, support this country for 70 years. The same we're having in Wajir. And we're not really doing enough in order to harness this water to enhance food production. So basically, I think we are really missing the point. And it's, you know, it's a high time, you know, the government in this country, the communities really look into how they've been doing things and try to put, you know, how they can really enhance food production in the ASALs, because ASAL counties, once, you know, is well utilized, can really feed this country and can also produce lots of food for export. So basically, you know, there is a lot that needs to be done. Just look at, you know, livestock production. Why are we losing all these millions of livestock? You know, we've lost a billion livestock worth billions. We are given figures in Marsabit to say that 122,780 cattle died. Who knows the number? No one even knows the number. We are just given, you know, people just in the office, and then they prepare these reports. 535,972 goats, 511,054 sheep, 82,841 camels. Just put this, you know, into monetary value. And this one we have not included Garissa, Mandera, Turkana, West Pokot, Kajiado, and all these counties. No, once we do all this, I think before they die, we're able to disburse them. People get cash, you know, meet the other basic needs, and then we also try to see how communities also benefit from this. Another issue is about, you know, we've seen, you know, Isiolo County, Marsabit County, Wajir County, all of them coming up with an abattoir. Why should we have an abattoir? What is the role of FCDC? FCDC needs to be strategic. In fact, you know, the initial idea was good, but we are not seeing much, you know, coming from FCDC. You know, we are always seeing, you know, people meeting in Mombasa, in Naivasha, and in big hotels in this country, but not really, you know, putting strategic things, you know, how they can transform, you know, the future of the people they represent. Just look at the current drought. We've never had any statements from FCDC. But they are getting a lot of money from USAID, from EU, in the name of, you know, ASAL counties. So what are we really doing? So basically, you know, there's a lot of gap. We are not focused. We are just, you know, busy bodies, you know, in Nairobi, in Naivasha, in all these places, but not really looking at, you know, our people who are suffering and always asking for food, you know, in the ASALs. So why should we have all these abattoirs in all these places? Can't we have one where all these counties, you know, come up with a central point where an abattoir, functional one, is being built, and then all the communities are able to bring their livestock there. So everybody wants to do their own things in a small way, and unfortunately they are not successful. They always fail. So I think it's about, you know, working in cooperation, you know, building synergy, working together to see how they can really, you know, transform the future of the people in the ASALs.
Right, and we are talking, staying with the strategies that could be done, and you mentioned, Maureen, a bottom-up approach and how communities could be engaged. So we shall be talking about that. Let's take our second breather right here at KTN News Center. Do stay with us. We're still offering more solutions with our special guest this morning to ending hunger in the country. Stay tuned.